I've heard concerns expressed tonight about sex offenders on site. I've heard concerns expressed about drug use and crime and security. And we're going to take everything we heard tonight and we're going to regroup as a staff, and we're going to do everything we can to address all of the concerns that were raised tonight and develop both a site plan and a management plan to address those concerns. And we will be back out to the community to talk with you all about what we've come up with.
Hey guys, check this out.
What is it?
Is someone in?
For myself and the panel to start to respond to some of your questions. I think one question that I heard more than once was is this low barrier? And that's a term of art in shelter and affordable housing. And really, you know, barriered services are a spectrum, and what low barrier means is that there are fewer barriers to accessing the site. So examples of barriers could be substance use, could be behavioral challenges, it could be having pets. So on that spectrum of things, mitigation is a pretty low barrier site in the sense that the site tries to work with folks who have substance use challenges. That's not necessarily a reason for somebody to not be allowed access to the site and the program. Likewise, people with other mental health challenges are welcome, and as are people who have pets, other things like that. Prior criminal history is also not necessarily a barrier to the program. However, if that person's, you know, another question that's come up related to barriers, and Sam, I may need your help on this, but if Department of Corrections or the county has specific requirements related to a person's release for their sex offenses, for example, then obviously the city is going to support those state and county requirements as far as their release and where they are allowed to stay in the community. The city is not going to, you know, nor could we challenge the state's requirements around where a, you know, proximity to somebody's release if there are specific distance requirements for somebody's release related to a sex offense. So that's, I think, hopefully that speaks to the low barrier question. Gabe, another question that we heard was qualifications of Catholic Community Services staff in the chat. Could you talk a little bit about staff background?
Sure, yeah. So Catholic Community Services is a large private nonprofit. It's, I think, the largest in Washington, in Western Washington, as far as a social service agency. And so within that, we have a lot of agency policy and structure that we operate under, and lots of things like incident reporting and safety protocols and things like that. Our staff that we hire, we have case managers there, and also program generalists that are working there. And we have a site supervisor, Candace, that's oversees those staff. I supervise Candace. I'm a mental health professional and an MSW. I've been working in Olympia for 15 years with this population. And then we have a visiting supervisor from CCS that helps oversee rule violations. So we take very seriously low barrier and harm reduction that Carrie was talking about doesn't mean there's no rules and no consequences. And so we take very seriously safety and health of everyone there and our neighbors as well. And so when there's a contract violation that someone has violated, there's a process that we follow through on that. And part of that is the outside supervisor coming in and deciding what needs to happen. And that's a little bit about our staffing there.
Thank you, Gabe. Sam, I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to some of the questions about crimes in and around and planning for response in the future. And also if you have more to add related to sex offender citing.
Yeah, I'll start with the sex offender citing, just try and go in order, maybe backwards from where you went. The sex offender citing, obviously, we're going to comply with the state law. We're going to require people to be where their statutory requirements are per their level of sex offender reporting. I think it's important to mention that all over the county that sex offender management is handled by the sheriff's office, which is per RCW. So that is the state law that they manage that. We assist in some ways with that by notifying the public when we know that we have someone in the area that matches criteria that requires notice. But the checking in all occurs through the sheriff's office. Again, that's state law. As far as a response to crimes there, I saw a question in the text about the statistics for the current mitigation site. And I'll just at the peril of I hope everybody understands, it's very difficult for me to give you accurate statistics they may seem low, they may seem high. To some, it's difficult to say what comes from the mitigation site and what doesn't, because as somebody I think said, there are some effects of the mitigation site that we see that are a little bit away from there, that may or may not be from people that are there. It's for us, we don't ask that question. We're very often when we have things like that downtown. So it's difficult for us to come up with really accurate statistics about that. If for that site and that site alone, I don't think that the statistics are going to be very useful for an analysis of what this site's going to look like, nor is it a very accurate picture of what it looks like down there right now either. Because some of the activity happens around the site. And so in our system, it doesn't go into that address. So it's difficult to track that. And then I'll move to drug enforcement. Drug enforcement is obviously governed by state law and it's governed by case law. There have been some changes in Washington state law with regard to drug enforcement. And so it does require us, when we come upon people that are low level, and that means using, for the most part, drug offenders, we are referring them and we are obligated to try to get them into treatment or at least offer treatment to them. And we're doing that. And we're also keeping a database of people that have been referred for a drug offense. And it does take 2 times prior to an offense. And I think somebody accurately said then it becomes a misdemeanor. And so the time that it becomes a felony above that is the higher level, either distribution or larger levels, possession with intent, or distribution, delivery, that kind of thing, is when you're going to get the felony charge just by state law at this point.
Thank you, Sam. Jay, do you have more that you would like to add?
Yes, thanks, Carrie. I just wanted to address a few things, and I appreciate the opportunity. First, there was a statement made in the beginning that that we don't care and that the city council doesn't care. And I just want to say that the city council cares deeply about this issue. They care deeply about the neighborhoods. Our staff, our nonprofits care deeply about this community, and we're working hard at this. This is a very complex issue. It's really above any one city and what they can do on their own. We are giving every resource we can towards this, and I agree, it's not enough, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us as it is for you. But mitigation site has resolved some issues that we've had in terms of we've had a lot of encampments in doorways and all over the place, and we don't see those like we did before because we have different opportunities. And I see Deputy Chief shaking his head because we're not having those conflicts with business owners like we did in the past because we have a mitigation site. There's a question about the Boise decision and would it be more costly to fight the Boise decision, and that's not something we can do. The Supreme Court was asked to take up the Boise decision and they declined, which means there's nothing more that can be done to fight the Boise decision. So that leaves us in a place where the Boise decision still is in effect for cities like us, which says anybody that's on a piece of public property, we have to provide another alternative. We can't just shoo them along to somewhere else. So we're doing the best we can with what we have and with the mitigation site. We set up the Plum Street Village. We're thankful to the community to pass a home fund. Ms. Mercer talked about 2828 Martin Way, and I'm really proud of that because that is our first home fund site. It's 60 beds of permanent supportive housing that the city helped make happen with the support of this community through the home fund. And what will it take to stop shifting around the way we are? We need more support from the state. They need to get into this game. We need mental health resources. We need more drug rehab facilities. Those are not things that cities can build and run with the resources that we have. We need state assistance, and it's going to take all of us to do that. I want to remind everyone that, you know, we're really early in this process. We're here tonight because we do care deeply and we want to try to get this right. And so I've heard concerns around tonight expressed around people camping in and around the area. I've heard concerns expressed around loitering and impacts on businesses. I've heard concerns expressed tonight about sex offenders on site. I've heard concerns expressed about drug use and crime and security. And we're going to take everything we heard tonight and we're going to regroup as a staff, and we're going to do everything we can to address all of the concerns that were raised tonight and develop both a site plan and a management plan to address those concerns. And we will be back out to the community to talk with you all about what we've come up with. So I want to just express my appreciation for all of you being here. I know this is a hard conversation. I know how hard it is for all of you that have kids that have fears. We are going to do everything we can to address those. So I just wanted to make those comments and just appreciate you all for coming. It's a complex issue and we're working hard on it.
Thank you very much, everyone. In addition, we're also going to be setting up a web page so that we can keep you current on this conversation and post, you know, as Jay mentioned, frequently asked questions that have come up tonight and will continue to come up throughout this conversation. And of course, we'll also post there more information on future meetings and ways to stay informed and engaged on this topic. Thank you very much.
That's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, have a nice day.